Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Mark, unfortunately, you had a business that went bad. You lost everything and had to start over again. How are rentals helping you rebuild your life?
Yeah, so Dan, real estate's really become a really key part of my family and is investing strategy going forward because of a lot of failures and really literally having to start over at the age of 40 and not wanting to be there in the future. We've made different choices. We've been a little bit more conservative and again, used real estate as a key part of that strategy going forward.
Mark doesn't want to take on a ton of risk, but at the same time, he knows that he needs to invest for his future. So he's taken a very conservative approach to buying rental properties and built a very diversified portfolio. On the podcast today, we're going to see what he's buying. We'll take a look at his portfolio, and we're also going to see how the rentals are actually saving him a ton of money in taxes. Joining us on the show today from Morrisville, North Carolina is Mark Depetro. We'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to Mark. I've had tenants that have either broken their leases or stopped paying rent, and I'm sure you know that this can be very expensive. It's very easy for the cost to exceed the amount of money that you're holding for a security deposit. And because of this risk, I started using the guarantors to guarantee my leases. The guarantors protect your rental income against rent defaults, vacancy loss, lease breaks, holdovers, and more. And this is all at no cost to you. Your tenants pay for the insurance premium. If you want to learn more about their platform, check out my bonus episode from September 15th, 2022. It's titled, "Is This Better Than a Security Deposit?" If you're ready to sign up, you can enroll within minutes by visiting theguarantors.com. Again, that's theguarantors.com. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property, and when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs, and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com. NMLS 42056.
Rental Income Podcast.
Mark, let's start off talking about your portfolio. What does your portfolio look like?
So, Dan, my portfolio today consists of 2 long-term rentals, which are here local in our local market, 2 short-term rentals that are out in North Myrtle Beach, and 2 commercial properties that we own in town as well.
So let's take a step back and understand how you got here. So at 40, you lost everything. What happened? Like whatever you're comfortable sharing with how things went bad at 40.
Yeah. So the long and short of it is I was very leveraged. I'm a finance major. My dad was really good with money. And so I really understood kind of what was going on and still made bad choices. When 2008 came, my business was highly leveraged, and I just truthfully thought I could sell my way through it. I could get out of it. I could make it work. I was wearing all the hats, and I learned that that is not the way to do it. And so while with respect to real estate, while leverage is incredibly important and useful, it's also dangerous. So you've got to temper that with both, I guess your personal feeling on debt, and your strategy, really.
So going broke at 40, that was not real estate related. That was another business.
It was not. No, that's correct. It was not real estate related. It was my primary business.
Okay.
As somebody that literally never missed a payment in my life, never had under a 750 credit score, just never had an issue with money. I'm not a spendthrift or anything. To literally having to file bankruptcy and through a lot of things that were not under my control, it makes you extremely cautious and conscious of the problems that debt can cause. And it's kind of that real world experience. I learned it in school, but then I really went through the rule of hard knocks, and so much more conscious about it now. Yes,
Yeah.
certainly.
All right. So you're not in the frame of mind where you'll only invest with cash. You're using leverage,
That's right.
but you're just trying to be smart about it.
Yeah, so all of our properties have at least 20% down, and some as much as 30% down. And then we've certainly taken advantage over the climate over the last couple of years of refinancing, but not only for the lower rate, which we did get, but also for lower terms. One of the things I found that was very interesting is I didn't know until a couple of years ago, you can almost name how long you want the loan to be. Like everybody hears about 30 years and 15 years. Well, we have a 20 year. And we have a 22 year.
Oh,
And I did some math to kind of figure out, and I don't want to get all into that, but you can do
yeah.
math and sort of figure out where you want to be, and you can kind of name your terms. So that's what we did.
Yeah. Smart. Okay. Yeah. So I guess like if you're 8 years into a loan and you refi, you don't want to go back to year one of a 30-year loan. If you can just refi and pick right up at year 8. So you have
That's
22
exactly
years.
what we did. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
exactly what we did.
Awesome. All right. So let's kind of break down the types of properties you have because it sounds like you're very diversified. You've got commercial properties, you've got long-term rentals and short-term rentals. So
That's
tell
right.
me about the commercial because I always hear commercial real estate is in trouble, but it doesn't sound like it is for you. What are you doing with your commercial properties?
Yeah, so I own a couple businesses, but I own one main business, and we have two. There's a 5 unit building, and we own 2 units in it that my business occupies. So we had been renting for a long time, and through some interactions with other owners and kind of learning about real estate, I thought, well, man, what if we owned the place that our business was, and then
Yeah.
rented it back from ourselves? So we have LLC, multi-member LLCs that we've created for each unit, and essentially I'm renting it back from myself, through our business. So those are the two commercial properties we own.
All right. So literally like every month your business writes a check to the LLC that owns the real estate.
That's exactly right. That's
And,
exactly right. So,
and
yep.
tax wise, I got to imagine that's probably a good tax move because that's a write off for your business. And then for the real estate, you've got depreciation and all kinds of stuff to offset that. So that saves you a good amount of money, right?
My accountant called me 2 years ago now and said, "Man, sit down because we we cost segregated that building, and we got $40,000 back in taxes. So
Wow.
not only did we get all the rent, but then we got that back as well because of the upgrades that we've done."
Wow, that's so smart. Yeah, for anyone that owns a business, you should definitely look into buying the real estate. And the other thing I think is smart about that is that if at some point you wanted to sell your business, right, you could keep the real estate and you have the cash flow from the new owner,
Man, it's
right?
so important if you're the business owner and you purchase the real estate. It's so important to seriously consider buying it under another entity because, like you said, now you can spin off either one. You can sell the real estate and keep the business. You can sell the business and keep the real estate. I mean,
Right.
nowadays you sell your business to somebody and you get whatever, and then you're getting rent back from it the whole time it's there.
Yeah, that's pretty
So,
awesome.
yeah.
How about the financing? How did you finance that building or those buildings?
So, two different ones. One of them we got through commercial financing through our bank. The other unit, so we seller financed it, he seller financed it, and we closed in like, I don't know, 15, 20 days.
Let's talk about the long-term rentals. So tell me about
Yes.
those properties. Are they close by to where you live?
Both the long-term rentals are very close to where we live. We live in just a little kind of suburb of Charlotte up in Lake Norman, and we have two kind of older homes built in the 70s. They're very close to the high school and the elementary school, so they're great for for families that have kids. Both of them are 3 bedroom, 2 bath, both of them are around 2,000 square feet. One is like 1,850 and one is like 2,100. So they're pretty close. Again, they're traditional ranches, brick ranches. With one has a one-car garage, one has a carport, and again, they're kind of right near each other, about a mile and a half from each other.
Every once in a while, I run into a tenant that wants to pay rent up front. I just had someone a few months ago that wanted to pay 6 months up front. Have you run into something like that?
The very first long-term property we purchased, we literally had a renter come in and say they wanted to rent with 2 years up front and the security deposit. And by the way, the 2 years included a bump of 3% at the end of the year.
Wow.
And I thought it was crazy. And literally, I'm like calling our attorney and I'm calling our accountant and I'm on like, online, like asking people, there's got to be a scam here. Like, what's going on? Just thinking it's way too good to be true. But it was real. It happened. They were actually in the property for 2 years. There was a unfortunate event in their family and they had to leave, but there was nothing with us. We had a really good relationship the whole time, and it worked out great.
And there was no, I guess, like, was there any reason for them? Like, I just don't understand, like, why someone would want to pay 2 years up front. Was there something in their background? Like, did they have an eviction or anything that would have maybe made you nervous to rent to them?
They did not have great credit. I don't remember exactly. I believe it was a little under 600. I'm going to say 575, I think. And so that's obviously a red flag.
Yeah.
It kind of an odd situation. It was the grandmother that paid the money, and the lady that lived there with her child, with her daughter, really couldn't afford the three. We look for 3 times the rent as revenue.
Yeah.
You have to make 3 times the rent, and she wasn't quite there.
Okay.
So there was that, but really, they certainly didn't have to go that far. I mean, if they'd have said, "Hey, we're going to pay you a year up front," we would have taken, we would have done backflips and been happy with that. And like that, and the commercial one where I just called the guy and asked him about owner financing. You never know till you ask. Like,
right.
And people just, if you think out of your wallet when you sell, or you think out of, what you value, that's not the way everybody is.
Right.
So there's definitely opportunities out there. They're not like, they're hard to find, but they're out there.
Right. Now, did your lawyer mention like any risk to taking that much money up front? Like, I'm just thinking, if something went bad with them, could you maybe not evict them because they had already paid? Like, did your lawyer mention anything that to watch out for?
It's funny that you would say that. I didn't, to be honest, no, we didn't even think about that at the time, which is shame on us, because that's a great thing to think about.
Yeah.
What did happen was our accountant was the one that mentioned some stuff, and he was like, you have to realize this. Essentially, they're paying ahead, right? So they're paying. It's almost like a deposit.
Yeah.
And so you can't. They're giving you the money, but in real terms, you can't realize that until you've earned it. Which, as a landlord, you have to provide the service of, the house for the month.
Right.
So he said, we got to be really careful about that. So we did set up some special accounts to manage that, but we did not talk about that. I remember we did not talk about the eviction thing, and that is we were probably just lucky, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, because if something happened, like, to not be able to get rid of them, like, that's horrible. So I guess, you put the money in a separate account, and then you would just basically pay your LLC every month.
It's a little bit more management, but as I guess it's not every state, but at least in North Carolina, for example, security deposits have to be in a special account. They have to sit by themselves. Mm-hmm. They can't commingle with your operating expense account.
Right.
Okay. So we just created a separate account, just like you said. We stuck the big chunk of money in that, and then each month we would essentially pay ourselves the rent, like you said. We pay from that account into the LLC's operating fund, just as if they paid us, and we it's siphoned off the money, the rent every month that way.
Okay. Tell me about your short-term rentals. So where are they?
Yeah, these are fun. We have two down at North Myrtle Beach. They're almost identical. They're also 3 bedroom, 2 bath. They're more like in the 1,250, 1,300 kind of square foot. They're both oceanfront. They're actually both on the third floor of two different buildings. They're beautiful. They're kind of in that. One we purchased around 230, and right now it's worth about 430. That was like 8, 9 years ago. And then the other one we purchased about 360, and it's a little over 4 now, somewhere in that ballpark.
And how far away are those properties?
They are about 4 hours from us, 3:45.
How do you manage them? Do you have a local management company, or are you able to do that remotely?
So in that case, we do have a local management company. And with short-term rentals, I would guess everywhere, but certainly on the beach, you have to have a cleaner, right? I mean, that's
Right.
just a really normal thing. So at least down in the beach, the cleaners, at least the larger ones, also have property management arms to them. So you're kind of hiring one thing if you want to.
How do you manage the cash? So you have a lot of money coming in the summertime with the Airbnbs,
Yes.
and then your other rentals, the commercial and the long term, that's kind of steady. But like,
Yes.
how do you manage everything to make sure that you're going to be profitable and you're not going to get killed in those winter months when you have less money coming in?
Yeah, so many years ago, I read a book called Profit First by a guy named Mike Michalowicz. And in that book, it's very much like almost like an envelope system. But what it teaches in that book is that you have a number of accounts set up, literally physical accounts at the bank that are set up that are independent, and you take the income that comes in, and then you take percentages of that income to go to various funds. So because the book is called Profit First, the first account is your profit account. And so you literally take money from that income, and there's a certain portion of every dollar, in our case it's 5%, goes into that profit account. And then we actually have a property management account, a maintenance account, a CapEx account, an operating expense account, and a security deposit account in all of those properties, which sounds like a lot. And you go, why would you do that? What's really nice is exactly what you said. When we go into the bank and you log in and you look at that chart of accounts, you know instantly, even if you know nothing about money, you know nothing about finances at all, you look instantly and you know, I have enough money for a heating and air system that's going to break down. Is there $10,000 in your CapEx account or not? Yes or no? It's there. And so in the operating account, that's how you can tell if you have enough money to get through the month. I mean, down at the beach, it's kind of a quarterly thing. So you take your mortgage, if you have one, multiply that by 3, and then you add in your HOA. And that's sort of, and you add in your electrical bill. Usually that's about it. And that's your sort of quarterly nut that you have to hit to make sure that you have enough money to get through the quarter. And obviously you can multiply that by 4, and that's annual.
And do you have, like, say, a maintenance account and your profit account and all the other accounts you have that set up for each property? It's not like one big account.
No, it's every LLC. So just to give you an idea, like each property we have, the 6 that we talked about, all have their own LLCs, and we're really, really smart, Dan. I mean, we are like geniuses. So we name them the address of the property. So like one of them is 852 Fieldstone Road LLC, because we're so silly, we would never know which one we were talking about.
Right.
So we name the LLCs the address of the property. So we have 6 LLCs. Each LLC is just like a mirror image of the next. We have the same accounts for each one of them. And by the way, my business has been doing it for, I don't know, 10 years now.
Yeah.
And we have the same exact accounts. And then those LLCs are, in our case, we have a holding company that they all flow up. And then that holding company is inside of a trust that we created.
So that way, I mean, you can log into your bank and you can see, okay, well, this property isn't doing that great.
Yep.
Like you can see, okay, that there's not money here. Now, what about like every once in a while, I have a property that is just doing horrible and the other properties have to carry that property.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do in that case?
We actually had this years ago, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe in taking from one property to the next. And I think when you commingle the money, it makes it even harder. But when it's separate, at least you're making an informed decision. Your eyes wide open, going, "Yes, I'm going to take money from property X to subsidize property Y."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the properties have to stand on their own.
Yeah.
So when that happens, in most of the properties, we work with a partner. One of our beach ones is our own. One of them is with my best friend from high school and his wife. And then the two that are long-term here is the same partner, a gentleman that I work with and his wife. So the other thing is now you can't just take money from one to the other because you have partners that you got to consider, right?
Yeah.
So in some cases, we'll have kind of the equivalent of a margin call, and we'll say, hey, you know what? We had an HVAC unit go out, and it's $10,000, and we have 6 in the capital account. So we got to come up with $2,000 each. Now I know that in another property, I got that $2,000, but I don't take it from there because then that really, I don't know, cripples is probably too strong a word, but it certainly like undermines that other property, that puts that other property at some sort of risk.
Right.
Because eventually, if you keep doing that, you're going to have to put the money in anyways. It's just going to be when you get to the last one.
Yeah.
You're just robbing Peter to pay Paul, basically.
Yeah. So how much do you know? How much do you like have to keep in each account to be safe? Because you just never know when that roof is going to go or the HVAC is going to grow. Is there a certain dollar amount that you target to have in that account?
This is the other beauty of having the accounts is that, and again, you don't know anything about finance, nothing about numbers. But when you start to do it this way, you just start to innately learn the answers to this. So for example, maintenance, $1,500. If it's truly the exterminator's coming by, something breaks in the dishwasher and they got to go fix it, whatever, electrician, something. $1,500 basically is Murphy's Law. It covers just about anything that can happen on a maintenance issue.
Yeah.
For me, CapEx is an HVAC system now, which is $10,000 to $12,000 depending on the size of the property, of course. But so $10,000 is what I'm looking for in CapEx, and I feel good if I got $10,000 there.
Yeah.
And then property management is one that we've learned over time. You literally can take, hey, what does my cleaner charge me? And add just a little bit of buffer there because every once in a while there's something special that has to happen. And so in our case, we just take out every time we have a stay, we just subtract that amount that the cleaner's going to charge us plus a little extra and pop that in the property management account. So when their bill comes at the end of the month, it's done. Like it's
right. Right. Yeah. And I imagine just mentally it takes up less bandwidth in your head to think this stuff through because you're going to have a certain percentage in every account and your rents come in and you just have to move that money to the different accounts.
I think it's fun. Like when I get income in, I love moving the money around and seeing where it goes. And I recognize that some people won't like that, but this is really a system for those people, the people that don't like it. It's not a big deal if you have one property. It may not be a big deal if you have 2, but once you get to like 3, 4, 5, or good gosh, there's people that have 10s and 20s and 30s, all that. It's really hard to separate that stuff. And at least for me, it would give me a lot of mental angst.
If you want to learn more about this strategy, the name of the book that Mark got it from is called Profit First. And if you want to look that up later on, I've got a link to it on my website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 439. I'd like to thank Chaley Ridge for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking to buy a rental property, definitely reach out to Chaley. She's a nationwide lender, and she's actually an investor herself. And if you come across a good deal and you're having a hard time making the numbers work, reach out to Chaley. She has a ton of different loan programs, and she can figure out a way to make your deal work. If you want to talk to her personally, you can reach her at ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE, lendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. And if you mention Rental Income Podcast, she will credit you back $250 at closing. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button. I put out a new interview every single Tuesday. And if you're following the show, you'll get notified as soon as new episodes come out. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.